शृण्वन्तु विश्वे अमृतस्य पुत्रा आये धामानि देवानि तस्थु मेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् त्वमेव विदित्वाति मृत्युमेति नान्यः पन्था विद्यते अयनायः.
Ganga Sagar, the confluence of Mother Ganga and the mighty sea. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people take their holy dip here on the auspicious day of Makar Sankranti. According to the legend of the Purans, Gangasagar's earnest devotion during his 100th Ashwamedh Yajna threatened to make him an equal to Lord Indra in divinity. Indra retaliated by hiding the horse in the ashram of Kapil Muni. In their search for the horse, the sons of Sagar arrived at the ashram and struck Kapil Muni, mistaking him to be a common horse thief. Disturbed in his meditation, Kapil Muni broke out of his trance and transformed the 60,000 sons of Sagar into ashes. It was the relentless prayers of Sagar's grandson, Bhagirath, that brought Mother Ganga down to earth to bless the 60,000 sons with their ultimate moksha or salvation. It is in search of that ultimate moksha that hundreds of thousands of people congregate here every year at Ganga Sagar. It is among the holiest of pilgrimages in the Hindu Pantheon. The famous teachings of Khona preach that if all pilgrimages may be visited again and again, Ganga Sagar must be visited at least once. And the pilgrimage can be truly sanctified with a holy bath at the confluence of the Ganga and the sea on the auspicious Makar Sankranti. It is this belief that creates in the Hindu mind the dream of visiting Ganga Sagar at least once. The temple at Ganga Sagar can be historically dated from the 5th century AD. At one time, Sagar, the largest river island in the Sundarbans, was remote and inaccessible, like many others. Its waters were home to the crocodile, its land ruled by the Royal Bengal tiger. With the threat of cholera and smallpox, pilgrims virtually left behind their hope of survival when they embarked on this pilgrimage. The preachings that if all pilgrimages may be visited again and again, Ganga Sagar must be visited at least once in a Hindu lifetime are the result of these reasons. Perhaps that is why hundreds of thousands of pilgrims throw their lives in danger in their search for moksha. Today, Sagar Island is a busy human habitat. The inhabitants are primarily peasants or fisher folk. The development that has been inaugurated by the Ganga Sagar Mela is noteworthy. The journey to Ganga Sagar also is now a pleasant one. The fairground brings alive the extensive stretches of sand at the mouth of the river for months before the festival. The essential services needed for the multitude of pilgrims keeps government servants from many departments extremely occupied. Temporary accommodation is created for hundreds of thousands of pilgrims, and similar housing provided for the workers and volunteers. Safe drinking water has to be carefully distributed. Toilets have to be provided for so many. Arrangements have also to be made for electricity too. Gradually, the fairground dresses itself with the luxuries of modern urban life. The fairground sparkles in the brilliance of electric lights. Kolkata's green lung, the Maidan, is a temporary campsite for pilgrims. Sadhus and sannyasis also begin to congregate here days before the festival. A pre-Ganga Sagar Mela emerges in the heart of the city. Most of the pilgrims who arrive from outside the state will travel to Ganga Sagar straight from here. A short pause has to be taken at the edge of the mainland. Civil servants and volunteers are present here to help the pilgrims. From Lot 8, it is 4 kilometers down the expansive Muriganga River to Sagar Island. From Lot 8, most pilgrims begin the last lap of their journey at Kochubedia Jetty. Some pilgrims also find their way from Chemaguri at Harwood Point. Waves of pilgrims keep coming in for days, achieving gigantic proportions on the eve of the festival itself. Makar Sankranti, in the wee hours of the morning of the last day of the month of Pause, the pilgrims mill together. They ignore the biting cold to immerse themselves in the holy waters. Just one dip, right at this auspicious moment, at this holy spot, is enough to grant them the ultimate moksha. For the past, the pilgrims worship their ancestors. For the future, they make sacred pledges. If their sacred wishes have been fulfilled, they thank the Almighty. At one time, if children were born out of such a wish, the firstborn was drowned in these waters to appease the gods. It happens even today, only the drowning is symbolic. The firstborn is surrendered to the holy waters, but then picked up with tender loving care. Crossing the Baitarani, like the river of Hades in biblical mythology, where the human soul crosses the borders of this temporal life, clutching on to the tail of the holy cow mother. At the end of the holy bath comes the worship at the ashram of Kapil Muni. The sea has submerged the temple quite a few times. Ramdas Ji Maharaj of the Hanumangadi Mutt of Ayodhya constructed the present temple in the 70s of the 20th century. The center of the temple is occupied with the idol of Kapil Muni. Beside it is Mother Ganga with Bhagirath in her lap. There is also Gangasagar. And at the other end is Mahavir Hanuman. The pilgrims decorate their offerings to these deities. The coffers are full with offerings of every kind. The revenue is collected in sacks and dispatched to the Hanumangadi Mutt in Ayodhya. There is no contribution to civic development, though the government spends huge sums of money every year for the civic amenities at the fairground. Apart from the puja at Kapil Muni's ashram, there are other forms of worship at Ganga Sagar. The ritual of crossing the Baitarini at Ganga Sagar is considered an inevitable responsibility by most pilgrims. It marks the transition of the human soul from its temporal home on earth to the abode of eternal happiness. That is why the cowshed at the festival is not a small one. The tail of the holy cow mother, decorated lavishly, is the inevitable guide on this momentous journey, helped by the Brahmins of Aryavart.
गौ गंगा नहाने के बाद गौ छूने के बाद उसको भवसागर से पार होना है। भवसागर को पार करने के लिए गौ छुआता है। पुण्य होता है जैसे मरने के बाद आदमी को जैसे भवसागर है उसी तरह से ही आत्मा को भवसागर से पार होने पड़ता है। वो गाय को पोंछ पकड़ेगा और भवसागर से पार होगा।
Ganga Sagar is a meeting place for many people, a pilgrimage of union between believers of many tongues and many ways of worship. With the open sea in front and the purity of this light, many people are transformed when they arrive here. Liberated from the pettiness of their humdrum daily existence, the pristine glow of pure faith emanates from their faces. No pilgrimage is complete without sadhus and sannyasis.
साधु बन के तीर्थ करते रहे, तीर्थ करते करते यहाँ आए।
ये तो পরের ঘরে ঘর করতে এসেছি, এবার নিজের বাড়ি কোথায় এখন ঠিক করতে পারি। এবার সেই বাড়ি কোথায় এবার মনে হয়েছে ঠাকুর এবার তুমি কি করবে করো, আমার করবার তো তিনি আজ আর বাইতে পারতেছি।
At Ganga Sagar, one of the chief attractions for the pilgrims is the Nanga sannyasis, who come down from the Himalayas. They have cast away all mortal bindings, even their clothes. In the height of winter, It is the ashes smeared on their body that provide the only protection from cold. All for the good of mankind. The blessings of these holy men and the chance to meet these recluses bring peace to the pilgrim's heart.
किस्मत में भाग्य का खेल है, कौन रोक सकता है भैया? ये हमारी किस्मत में लिखा होता है सब। हर आदमी अपने कर्मों का भोग भोगता है, कोई कैसे भोग रहा है, कोई कैसे भोग रहा है, हम ऐसे भोग रहे हैं। कल्याण होता है तो क्या भगवान को सुख शांति दें उनके मन में खूब, वो तो बोले बोले खूब मन अच्छा रहे, सुखी संसार रहे, उनका रहेगा अच्छा तो हमारे को अच्छा रहेगा। जब हमारे भक्ति खराब रहे तो हमारे पास अच्छा होगा, कौन आएगा, कोई नहीं आने वाला है।
There are frauds and charlatans too, who bring entertainment to the fairground. As usual, there are hordes of beggars too, like in every pilgrimage. Those who survive on the morsels from the pilgrim's fare.
Ganga Mai Apura Gorega.
One wonders how far they travel with such physical disabilities. Obviously, those who bring them here have their own selfish interests. Some beggars are also musical mendicants who sing praises to the Lord. Some keep idols beside them to attract offerings from the faithful.
हमारी सूचना केंद्र के नीचे बजने से केंद्र से संपर्क करें। जो भी व्यक्ति मेरी आवाज को सुन रहे हैं तो दूसरा केंद्र से संपर्क करें। আমরা মেলা শুরু থেকেই আপনাদের বারবার বলছি যে আপনাদের
Any fairground or mela means that there is much to see and there is some to buy. The products are many. Some are local produce, while others are essential commodities that have been brought from afar. Shops sell sweets as well. During the festival, the pilgrims are the major buyers. On the following day, the fairground throngs with local buyers who want to avoid the crowd of pilgrims. The fairground at the Ganga Sagar Mela is as much a melting pot of people as a place for different ways of making money, from the shopkeepers to the priests, from the travelling vendors to the barbers. There is a group too that waits in the water to pick up the pilgrims' offerings. They scratch the mud in search of the few coins they eventually collect. And there is a mad scramble for it as well. At a congregation as large as this, it is only natural that criminals will also mingle with the crowds. But the administration is ready to combat them. There is even a temporary jailhouse for thieves, pickpockets, and small-time frauds. The security guards are ever vigilant against criminal elements to protect and reassure pilgrims. The civil servants work tirelessly to maintain essential civic services. They supply water for drinking as well as for the toilets. They maintain uninterrupted power supply. Health workers keep a watch on pollution and contamination. For the sick, there is medical care. The fire brigade is also in readiness to fight any sudden outbreak of fire in the fairground. Members of the print and electronic media are geared to send daily dispatches. Many bizarre events are reported. The world gets to know of a unique festival. For the pilgrims, banking services and a post office is also available. The district magistrate and members of the local panchayat are also present here in their temporary offices. Lifesavers are also ready with boats in case of accidents in the water. The local administration has its own motor launches. The army is deployed on hovercrafts. Voluntary organizations work with equal energy beside all of them. They are all involved in providing medical care. Or in the feeding of pilgrims. Some act as guides. Others are involved in specific duties. The Khidirpur Seva Samiti keeps the clothes of the pilgrims while they are having their holy bath. The information center works round the clock to coordinate many activities. Announcements about people who have lost their companions in the huge fairground are made constantly.
सूचना केंद्र या बजरंग परिषद ढूंढने में कोई तकलीफ या कठिनाई महसूस हो रही हो तो किसी भी वैजधारी स्वयंसेवक एवं वर्दी धारण पुलिसकर्मी की सहायता ले। सबकी बात बदल रहने ले। सुजीत, ये चोपड़े बोला है।
It is not unusual for many people to lose themselves here, especially old people who have come from other states. Many people lose themselves in the milling crowds. In the scramble that takes place at the moment of the holy dip, many lose touch with their groups. Some even lose their clothes. Bajrang Parishad is involved in helping lost people.
आपका नाम बोलिए। आपने तो लिख दिया तो हो तो गया, आप साइड में जाइए। बोलिए बाजी। आप जो बोले उसका नाम बोलिए। नाम की जमा आगे रहने वाले हैं।
नीलू नीलू सेन नीलू दत्त नीलू दत्त
They are housed and looked after in camps.
আপনি লিখে দিয়েছেন তো? হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে, বসুন, এক্ষুনি আসবে লোক, ঠিক পাবেন আপনি।
এরা আসি আমার স্বামীর হাতে ব্যাগ পয়সা করি
ট্রেনিং এসেছে, তার নাম হচ্ছে আনন্দ। বাসে হ্যাঁ, রিতা বাস কলকাতায় আছে।
ফটো একটি ছিল স্বামীর
ব্যায়াম পড়ে গিয়ে এখানে লেগে গেছেন এখানে, আর চলতে পারছি না, হাসপাতালে দিয়েছিল, ওখান থেকে পুলিশ এখানে নিয়ে আসে। পয়সা নিয়ে বেরিয়েছিলাম, 5 দিন মন্দিরের কাছে আসছিলাম। একটা জোলান মাঝে ফার্স্ট 3 টাকা পয়সার ব্যাগ কাপড় আসেন না, ওইটা উঠে নিয়ে গেছে। একটু আবড়া দিলে যেতে পারছি।
लक्ष्मी, कहाँ से आए हुए आप लोग?
हम नकलऊ से।
Efforts are also made to locate their companions. The information center plays a major role here.
कमला देवी। कमला देवी, कहाँ से आया? आसनसोल। आसनसोल केटी रोड, आसनसोल रामकृष्ण डंगाल। अब अपना साइन कीजिए, दो साइन करो, साइन करो। नाम लखन साहब, इधर नहीं, अब इसका हाथ नहीं खोइए ना। चलिए, चलो एक आदमी आने वाला है, पूरा बैठेंगे तो जाएंगे।
Most people do find their lost companions, but there are always a few who do not. Their desperate cries for help and contact are lost in the huge fairground.
আর ওখানে আমার কাপড় দিল ডেকে নিয়ে।
সাথে কে আছে? ও আছে? আপনি হারিয়ে গেছেন?
ও মানে লুগাপটা সব বসারো রঠি বসাবি ঠিক না পারবে, বসারো লুগা কমল টমল ঘোড়া সজ সব জিনিস খাইবা সব।
চন্দ্রেশ্বর বাড়ি?
চন্দ্রেশ্বর চন্ডীপুর।
আচ্ছা,
চন্ডীপুর আমার ঘর।
সব জিনিসপত্র কৌড়ি আছে?
সেই কেইটি রখিছি তার ঠিকানা পাবো
তো কই পারবেন নাই?
কই পারবে নাই, তো দুটা লোক ছিল।
देखो भाई साहब हमारे यार
These are helpless people who have lost themselves in the pilgrimage. Among them are peasants from Aryavarta, seeking an escape from poverty. There are people who are dependent on families that no longer want to take their burden, or those who have been purposely deserted by their companions.
पटना जिला में।
आपके पास पैसा भी नहीं है?
ना पैसा तो पैसे भी नहीं, तो अभी तीनों साथे आया है। अभी
सुखदेव जय
देव भोजपुर
भोजपुर
नया जिला।
How else can the brothers from Maharashtra happily return home without their penniless mother?
बेटा खो गया, मैं खुद आ गई। अलाउंस बेटे के लिए बहुत किया, बेटा नहीं मिला। यहाँ से मैं हावड़ा तक गई, वहाँ से मैं पुलिस को पूछूंगी।
तारा संग और कोई बा? नहीं, वो चला गया, भुला गया। अभी तू अकेले बड़ा है? अकेले बानी। कहाँ से आइल बड़ा? देवरिया से। देवरिया से? हाँ। पैसा वैसा बाप लगे? पैसा नहीं खे सीधा उधर बटवा दिया। पैसा नहीं रहा, उहे लेके चल गया। यही टाइम का गैला पेशाब करे अवस्था को आदमी आइले संगे दुई आदमी हां अच्छा देवरिया तो का पैसा दे देवल जा तो तू चल जेबो नहीं टिकट में कटा दे चल जाए गाड़ी पर बैठा दे से चल जेबो हां बैठा दे हम चल जाए गोरखपुर वाला गाड़ी अच्छा ठीक पैसा नहीं चाहिए
Bajrang Parishad has taken up the task of helping these lost souls to return home.
ये हमारा साथी है, हम आए हैं मथुरा से बिरला मंदिर।
उसका नाम क्या है?
रेपती। हमारा नाम रमेश।
नाम लिखा चुका है।
ठीक है उसको नाम लिखाना हो, नाम काटाने होगा उसको।
नाम काट दो।
बस हो गया, दो मत मिल गया तो बस साउथ क्या है?
There are always some poor people who cannot even tell their own addresses. Language can be a major barrier to communication for them.
दो एक साथ है?
चार।
दो चला गया?
नहीं पैसा जाया। पैसा गया।
नहीं दो आदमी चला गया क्या?
दो आदमी चला गया?
आपके संगी वाले सब निकल गए क्या छोड़ के?
नहीं मानुस गया हाँ बायासराय एक उनकी बोली नहीं समझ हाँ बोली नहीं समझता ना मराठी भाषा है।
There are some who have never found the means to return and have spent their days working as household help with local families in Sagar Island. Even though Bajrang Parishad makes their sincerest and determined efforts to locate the homes of these lost people. The easy availability of civic services has made Ganga Sagar as much a tourist attraction as a holy pilgrimage. So tourists have joined the devotees. Even foreign tourists have also arrived. They will carry home a unique experience of friendship and sharing to distant corners of the world. Even though they may not share the faith in the sanctity of the holy dip, they join the believers in a unique experience of sea bathing. These tourists have to make do with the inadequate and Spartan hotel accommodation. Otherwise, pilgrims, workers and tourists all share the available housing on the fairground. This aspect of sharing living quarters at the Yatri Nivas transforms the inhabitants of each camp into a large family. Bonds are formed, friends are made. and with the holy waters as their witness, relationships are strengthened by pledges that will survive long beyond the festival.
সাগর রাজা সাক্ষী বললে কেঁদো হারালি খুঁজো আজ থেকে তুমি আমি সাগর সাগর সাগর
Some civic workers bring their families along to participate in this festival of friendship and brotherhood. Even the voluntary organizations are housed in the fairgrounds, temporary housing. There is a separate campus for media people. Inside the latticed bamboo walls of these temporary dwellings, built on the sand, life is both a challenging and an enjoyable experience. The stretch of sand is dotted with many makeshift cottages built by pilgrims who could not find a place in the Yatri Nivas or elsewhere. Even small traders set up their temporary dwelling here. Whether it is the ardent devotee or the trader lured by the crowds, everyone finds his space on the sand to live for the few days of the festival, elevated from the pettiness of their humdrum existence. On Makar Sankranti, throughout the day, the holy baths and the fair go on. Food for many is cooked in the common kitchen. Some of those who live in the makeshift cottages defy fire safety regulations and cook their food there. Come evening, and the fairground is touched by the melody of happiness and festivity.
इतना बहस करते
गए हम द्वारिका काशी न पाया भेद अविनाशी गए हम द्वारिका काशी न पाया भेद अविनाशी फिरे हम खोजते दर दर मफत में दे
Finally, sleep arrives in the cold winter night. At the Yatri Nivas, at the workers' quarters, at the makeshift cottages. For those who find no shelter in these, there is always space under the open sky, exposed to the elements. Makar Sankranti is only for a day, but the wake of the festival environment continues for a few days more. The pilgrims return fulfilled and at peace with themselves, blessed with their moksha. Most of them will probably never return here again, because Ganga Sagar is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. For many civic officials and workers, Ganga Sagar is, however, a yearly experience. Tourists leave with the hope that they will return one day, like the hundreds of thousands who come every year, because Ganga Sagar beckons them to moksha.
বাচ্চা কাচ্চা ছেলে নাতি পুতি নিয়ে প্রত্যেক বছর আমি এখানে আনন্দ করতে আসি।
The tents are struck, the pilgrims return. Only the lost people wait in anxiety and distress. Even they will also be taken away by the Bajrang Parishad. Meanwhile, the waters will wash the stretch of sand, and the last speck of human habitation will be removed. Every year, the Ganga Sagar experience will begin on a clean slate. Every year, just like it has begun from time immemorial.